gone. I almost forgot to say. Excellent, excellent. So let's make this very, very interactive. We're here for the next hour and a half or so. So thank you so much for giving up your time. And I'm just going to go straight into it. When was the last time you had a discussion about why relationships are failing? When was the last time? I'm going straight into it because it's a deep discussion. It's a very, very important conversation, and it's one that is well overdue. It needs to be said. It's, we all walk around with seeing this everywhere. I mean, if you look at Nigeria alone, or let me start from UK where I am. In UK, I was doing the statistics, before I joined this, in preparation for this session. And it was quite alarming that over 50% of every marriage ends in divorce. Can you believe that? Over 50% of every marriage ends in divorce. And it's not even just the UK. If you look at Nigeria, if you have marriages that are failing, you see people that have been married for so long, and the next thing you hear that, oh, they're not together anymore. It's quite shocking. It's really quite alarming. Anyway, for those who haven't met me, I am Coach Evelyn. I am your relationship and empowerment coach, and you have me here for the next hour and a half. Again, just a quick housekeeping. Let's go through our phones to make sure that it's on mute so that we can get the most of today's session. Okay. Okay, bear with me. So we've done our phone checks. All good, all good. Let me get my slides ready. Slides ready, and then you can tell me when you can see my slides. But before I even go into sharing my slides, let's talk about the crisis, because I call it crisis, to be fair. I call it crisis. Like I said, it's really alarming to see what the figures are saying. You have two people who have come together, to make something work. And then before you know it, things fall apart. I don't know if you've read that book. Things fall apart, And over time, people get exhausted. They don't want to work on it anymore. They don't want to work on it anymore because they've tried, they've shown up in the best possible way that they can, and then find out that they're knocking heads. But what is the main cause of it? We'll go through it in today's session. But what I want to draw, I want to start by saying that it's not the marriages that are failing that are not just concerning. You'll find that the people in marriages that's supposedly on the outside they are together, but on the inside it's crumbled. They're just cohabiting. The marriage or relationship is just hanging by a piece of string, And that's not even the worst of it. The worst of it is you have a younger generation who grew up in those relationship dynamics that are now saying, if this is what love feels like, if this is what relationship feels like, I don't want to be a part of it. I don't want to know. And you don't blame them. You don't blame them because, put it this way, most of them have grown up with emotional negligence. They've grown up seeing the violence, the arguments, They've grown up seeing, the physical absence, emotional absence, all of these things. Sometimes even physical abuse. And so over time, the desire to even settle down in marriage is a long thing these days. That desire is gradually being eroded. It's gradually being eroded. Now, the consequence of this is that when two people, come together and decide, no, we're not doing it anymore, it doesn't end there. There's a ripple effect that happens thereafter. Put my slide up. You can see my slide. Can you see my slide okay? Can everybody see my slide?
Not yet, ma.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, good. Okay. So before I go on, please put it in the chat if you've been affected or know somebody who has been affected by a failing relationship, or even if your relationship has failed, or you heard somebody somewhere that has recently left one another. Just put it in the chat. Let me know that yes. Sorry, I'm not sharing right now. But I just want to do a quick check. If you've been affected by failing relationship, you know somebody who has, or I've heard somebody, a friend of a friend of a friend, this couple, they've left each other. If you know that or have that, I'll put my hand up. I'm a product. Thank you for being so honest, Theodore. Thank you. So when I say that this is a pandemic, thank you, Dr. Michael. When I say it's a pandemic, it's a crisis that calls for attention. And the truth is, the more we live it, the more it festers. It doesn't get better. Now, when two people come together, like I said, now let's even go back to the family unit. The family is something that is not just a social construct. It's something that God pieced together. God ordained family to be. It's not just it's not just two people breaking up. The relationship ends there. It has a knock-on effect, a ripple effect, not just on the two people involved. You have the children. The children becomes the immediate recipient of that. You have a failed relationship, a failed marriage, and all of a sudden, these children, their world comes to an end. It's shattered. In such a way that for adults, we have people to talk to. We'll call each other. We have people to unburden to. But those children, they just wake up one day, and the next thing they know is mom and dad are not together anymore, and they're left to have to deal with the aftermath of that. Now, please follow me as I'm journeying through the mind now. And just do a picture it. Now, this children is not just the children. Their cousins now become a distant thing because there's friction in the family. They can't go and spend the holidays with their cousins as they normally do. The grandparents get restricted access to them. So all of those things, can you see how it's now trickling out? Not just that. The people involved, they can't attend their social gathering the normal way anymore because we don't want to be seen here. We don't want to answer questions. There's so much that is taken away from us. And then we take it out into society. You have broken families. The families are the fabric on which a good society is built. And when families start to disintegrate, just tell me what happens. And we've seen it already. The morale in the society is so low. We have the crime rate is on the high. It's on the rise. So there's all of these things going on that it doesn't stop at the two people deciding that, okay, that's it, it's not working, go your way, I go my way. Now, when you even take it for those who are faith people, when you take it to the biblical standpoint, the family is not a human invention, like I mentioned earlier. It's a divine one, orchestrated by God himself. And it exists even before any social institution. And the thing is, the enemy, God created man and woman because he needs that family unit to move on earth, to bring his kingdom to pass. Now, when the health of the family, yes.
Why is my cheeseburger?
Sorry, can you mute, please?
Cheeseburger,
Yes,
the one
can
that I
you mute,
left here.
please?
I did not finish.
I didn't trust it. I trust my.
Okay. So, the truth is, if you want to destabilize a people, you don't attack the government first, you attack family. And that is what we're seeing now. We're seeing it all over. Families are being attacked. Relationship, people don't even see the bigger picture and don't see a need to work on this relationship. Okay? And when you make commitments, commitment is now nothing. You can get married today, in the next two years, you're going to see two marriages break in 2 months. People don't take their commitment serious anymore. Right? And when that happens, the only reason why this is we're ready to blame everything else but not do the internal work. Everything else gets blamed. Everything else is the issue, but not the internal work. And this tells me that there is a huge relationship gap. So let me finally share my slides. Now, there's something I wanted to highlight in this slide. So I mentioned earlier that over 50% of marriages end in divorce, which is crazy. And the knock-on effect is that with children, you have almost for every child, 1 in 3 lives in a single parent home. When there's division, when you've fractured what should have been a whole unit, there's always a gap. There is always a gap. Even with children that grew up in a 2-parent home, there is still the aftermath of that upbringing that they have to deal with, let alone when you have just one parent doing the job of 2 people in such a stressful society and stressful world that we have now. And like I said, it goes beyond that. You now have the Gen Z generation don't even want to know. They don't want to know. Okay. And just to wrap up, like I mentioned earlier on, that the family is God's establishment. And when it fractures, the damage flows not just to the children, to the community, to families, and it flows outward. Okay. Stop sharing for a bit. Now, just to do a check-in, does any of this resonate with anybody? Just give me a thumbs up, a yes. Do you agree with this, that this is a crisis? There is, an increasing decline in relationship, in healthy relationship, and so it's going to have that knock-on effect that we can't afford for it to happen. Now, what is the reason for this? This is where the relationship gap, knowledge gap comes in. We, especially as Africans, I know there's a lot of us here, we invest so much in education. We pride ourselves. In fact, anytime I go to the US, you go into the Uber, and they ask you, they love to have conversation. Are you from Nigeria? Yes. Oh, you guys, they rate us like this. Why? Because we're so academic. We're so academic. We love to study. You have Nigerians in all the, or Africans in all the biggest universities across the world. You name it. You have African people there, especially Nigeria, or the carry last. We're represented there. If you want to, talk about the best surgeons, you'll find in there, lawyers and all of that. But the one thing we don't invest in is relationship health knowledge. We don't invest in our relationship. And relationship, believe it or not, if you get it wrong, it can change the trajectory of your destiny. For those of us who have been, what I call examples. I don't want to use the word victim, but we've gone through it. 22 years was what it took me. 22 years. I felt like it just went into a hole. I did not know where it is. I can't tell you, what I achieved in that time, in that 22 years. It just felt like I wasn't existing, because you are in a relationship that doesn't support your growth, that helps you see yourself less than you are. And the longer you stay in those relationships, the more it affects you, the more it strips away the essence of who you're meant to be. Please, can I get an amen if this is resonating with somebody? Can I just get a thumbs up? Can I know that I'm not alone in this? Thank you. Thank you. So today is about having those candid conversations. That we cannot allow this to continue, because it's not just the buck doesn't stop with us. There is a knock-on effect, a knock-on the aftermath of that. And so I also want to acknowledge the men folks in here. So this is the first time that we're having a webinar that includes the men folks, and this is our special Father's Day. I'll say in honor of Father's Day. So can I, if you're a man, whether you're a cis man, a trans man, it's okay. It's okay. You're all welcome here. Let's know if you're a man. Give me a thumbs up. Power, yeah. Power to the men here. A thumbs up if you're a man. Let me know. Let me know. So I feel really honored that you're giving up your evening to come and grace us with your presence here. And I feel that, like I said, this discussion is so needed. And it's not going to be complete if we don't have both parties in the room, because there's all this movement, say women empowering women, and we women, we have our little corners that we all have all of these talks. But and the men, I think the men are waking up now. You have all this men cave and all this men thing going on. But I just feel like a conversation like today is needed, where we can bring things in the open and see from each other's perspective how this thing called relationship is affecting us, because we all wear different lenses. So without further ado, I think our time is past, and I'm going to bring two amazing speakers on to come and address this. And the way it's going to work, I have a couple of questions that we're going to ask. I mean, we have to cut the time, to maybe 3 to 5 minutes per question, because if I don't, we can be here the whole evening, and I don't want to take your time. So, but if once they start speaking, I'm sure you would understand why I have to bring them here. And let me see if I can see. As far as bio is concerned, if I decide to read the bio, we're not going to leave here. So the proof is in the pudding. That is what I would say with this. So the first person I'm going to bring on, let me see if I can have a skim through. bear with me. So this is a powerhouse. She's a woman that I have so much love and respect for. She has a large heart, and when I say a large heart in every respect, you know, she's in the healthcare. She's a healthcare leader, nurse practitioner, patient experience strategist with over 30 years of experience spanning clinical practice and healthcare governance. You have all this fancy thing that I'm even running out of breath. Sorry, Mama. So I'm not going to, because my tongue is even twisting whilst trying to read all this thing. So, and then I have Dr. Michael. So that's Dr. Lily West. Dr. Lily West. Please give it up for Dr. Lily West. Give it up. I can't see the love, please, guys. Or you want me to read all this thing? We won't leave here. That's it. That's more like it. That's more like it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. Thank you. And I'm sure you'll be blessed when she opens her mouth. And then I have this gentleman. He's gentle just by the name, but when you see him, you'll know that he's fierce. You know, he's a godsend. He's a messenger. He has a message of purpose. He's my personal coach, and I've worked so closely with him, you know. And he's such a selfless person. He's a Dr. Anthony, Michael Anthony. Just give it up. Again, he doesn't need any introduction. He just needs to open his mouth, and then you know what I'm talking about. So
it's a pleasure to be here, Coach Evelyn. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Mrs. Lily West. Pleasure to be here with you as well.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, you're muted, Mama. Mama, you're muted.
All right. So good evening, everyone. Glad to be here again with you and Dr. Michael. Been expecting to see you today.
Pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be here.
Okay. So the way we're going to do this is very easy. I'm going to start with a question. Let's say ladies first. So my first question will go to you, Mama. And you'd I'm gonna have to cap it at 3 to 5 minutes. Once I start coughing, you know that because I know that once you ignite Mama, that's it. And then Coach Michael, I'm warning you now.
Okay, noted.
Right. Okay. So the first question, and I think it's going to be a similar question to both of you, but I wanted to get a perspective from both parties. So when you look back at your relationship history, and this goes to you, Mama, or the relationship that you've observed closely, what is the one thing that you wish men understood about what women actually need on a relationship, in a relationship? Not what we say we want, but what we actually need at the deepest level. So you're muted again. That goes to you, Mama.
All right. So thanks again. Because I'm a woman, I know what it is. So I'll just tell you 1, 2, 3, back to back. The first one has to do with you seeing us for who we are when we say something to you. We want you to validate us. We want you to say, oh, I see you, I understand. Now, the difference between a man and a woman is men are logical, really like in 90%. Women are logical too, but more emotional. So men go into solution mode. They don't want too much talk. But for us, we need you to soak up that our emotions. But men would rather, okay, why don't you do it this way to work? That way you've just triggered us negatively. Like, you're not seeing me, you don't understand me. The next one has to do with, okay, let me provide a solution too. All the men need to do is just hold her hand, touch her, just say, okay, is that so? All right. We'll see how we're going to resolve this. Just give her that moment. The next one has to do with the emotional load we carry running our homes. In Africa, I'm not talking about UK, I don't live there, so I don't know how you guys do it. But here in Africa, when you're married, the household chores are left in your hands. You run the home. But as a woman, I am also feeling like, oh, shit, you're seeing me doing all of these ones. I don't need to beg you to do this for me in the house. I don't need to beg you to pick the child for me or do this. When I see you on your own, executing those things, taking up those roles that is seemingly for women, I feel like, oh, this person is my partner. This person really sees me for me and is ready to walk this journey with me. That's one. That's another one. The next one has to do with, I used to be somebody before. Do you still see me like that same person you met 20 years ago? Do you still love me that way? I want to hear you say, yes, changes have occurred, things are happening to your body and all of that. But do you still love this same person, my inner person? Does it come true to you like the same person? Do I still interest you? Do I still intrigue you? And all of that, despite the new shape you're seeing, the new features you're seeing, the new roles I'm taking on. The other has to do with you as a man standing as a gap, giving me that safe haven between me and your relatives, between me and your friends. Do you give me that assurance and reassurance that, look, no matter what happens, I will protect you. I have your back. When you make a woman feel that you don't have her back, that she's not part of your family, you've just destroyed that relationship. Because for a woman, her silence means a lot. She won't talk, but that silence is big. The other one has to do with affection. Do you always want to touch me, hold me, and expect that touch to result into intimacy? As a woman, we want you to hold us, touch us, give us that feeling that, oh, I see you, I'm here with you. But for if you touch me just because you want intimacy, you make me feel like I'm just a sex object. So these are some of the things I would say we don't want. We don't say them, but we want the guys to know that that's how we feel. Let me stop there so that I won't take all the time.
Wow, 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 wow. Mama, you have just blown the roof. And the women here, you're not giving Mama her flowers, because I think she's speaking for all of us. I think Mama is speaking for all of us. There's so many things that you said here, and guys, please, I need you to take your notes, that see us for who we are. Don't try to change us into who you want us to be. And I'm going to talk about that in, later on. Take the initiative. There's something you said, two things actually. You said, do you see the same person that you fell in love with? Yes, we go through changes, our body goes through changes. Back in the day, there was not a lot that our parents knew about menopause. Now it's everywhere, and even we women, we're still trying to understand the concept of it, so do you see us? And that's a valid question, like something that you can introduce in your relationship, to have that regular check-in, so that you can, it's about relationship health. So thank you so much for sharing that. And the one that I want to hone in on is the silence one. Silence is big. When a woman doesn't talk, she's talking. So when a woman goes quiet, you are in trouble. That's it means that things are almost gotten to a point of no return, So yes, thank you so much. I think these are such useful, very useful summary. I really hope there is someone here to speak for men. Okay. So don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. I've got you covered. So Coach Michael, I'm gonna come to you.
I think we should have that person come up. I think we should have him come up as well, so he can have him speak for me.
Yeah, so Prince, do you wanna come up and speak for men? We're giving you
Yeah,
floor here.
I can split my minutes in half, give him half of my time, and I'll take half.
Please, because
Yeah,
this is what this is about.
He said sure. So I think he can put up his
Oh,
microphone and camera.
yes.
3 minutes. I can just take a minute and a half, and then you can talk a minute.
Mute. Okay. So please feel free to come on camera and just
Yeah, his camera is on.
Oh yes.
Okay.
He seems ready for business.
Yeah.
Give it to us.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, I think I might be coming from a very, let's say, I'm not so mature like the other speakers when it comes to the institute of marriage. However, I think I've been smart enough to pick one or two from what the auntie just spoke about. But there are some things I picked up from our conversation. She was more of like women, me. I never saw her speaking about we, the institute, myself and my husband. It's about seeing me from where I'm coming from. I never heard her say seeing men from where he's coming from. There's a lot of pressure. I think the word itself is actually dropping on men. We need to understand that men, we don't live under another atmosphere. We live in the same world you are living into. There's a lot of
sorry to jump in a bit, Prince. I think just to give context, the question that I asked to Dr. West was for what she thought women wanted for. I mean, they want men to understand about them. Okay, so that's why she was speaking about just women's perspective. If you get it.
Well, yeah, I understand, but still, it's still one or two ways coming to where I'm coming from as well. Men go through struggles. Men trying to be healthy for the family, men trying to make sure everything is going on. Men it cannot be like the same way you were some years back. We have a different struggle. Men to go into their shell sometimes, that they actually need someone to bring them out. We are not superhuman. We need to be listened to. We need to be met where we are with things. Don't just think like I'm superhuman, I can sort everything. No, sometimes I need the shoulder. You need to see where I'm coming from too.
Yeah, 100%. I totally get that, Prince. So if you just hold that thought there for Prince, and then let me jump and double in.
Okay, that's fine.
Because I gave you some of my bird time, so
it's all right. You can have it. Thanks for the time, actually.
Let me continue.
Coach, I see Mohammed Adamu. Sorry, I'll give more time. Do you want to say something, Mohammed? Or you're just giving me that smile?
No, I'm just enjoying. I'll come in with my input at some other time.
Okay, that's fine. So let's jump quickly to Dr. Michael.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Mom, for the great points. And the question I'm guessing, of course, is the opposite of what went to Dr. West. What we men feel or hope that women understand. First of all, thanks, Dr. West, for all that insightful perspective. And I'm really just going to take it from what Prince was already saying, because that's kind of a bit of the core of it when it comes to men. That's like the opening. I think one of the core things we as men, and just to be clear, I'm not a relationship expert. These are just, opinions from a married man and a man that's been in multiple relationships before now. Men want women to understand the identity of a man, the definition of a man. There's a difference between being a male and being a man, okay? Just like what Prince was trying to say, the world is anchored on the leadership of a man. The world has the highest expectation of a man. A man in the relationship, in what he requires from his partner, one of the main things he requires from his partner is her understanding of what the journey of a man is. Because with all due respect to everything that the women folks represent and they do, it is not as heavy as what a man carries. A man is expected to be spiritually grounded, be a leader, be a father, be emotionally available, be financially successful, and multiple other things. So a man is constantly carrying weight. A man is constantly under pressure. And the struggle for a lot of men is that there is no language of expression of what men carry. There is no system or structure of what men carry or what men possess. I was speaking to somebody the other day and I said, yes, every state you go in Nigeria, there's a Ministry of Women Affairs. I mean, what does that tell you right away? Okay. And part of the understanding of definition of what men want women, what we want women to understand is that we're not just a father. Even inside the manhood, a man is a priest, a man is a king, a man is a lord, a man is also an ambassador. Okay. And the man is the priest of that family, and the family is the altar of the community and in extension, the world, basically. So you see that humanity really, really lies on the shoulder of a man, which is why the attack, what else in society is on men. One comedian said, like, why do you think when there's an emergency, it's women and children first? That's because even naturally in the default, there is just that care for the man is not there. Or the expectation is that the man should take care of himself. So the only place that the man is supposed to get care, understanding, is in his home. Because outside his home, he's just expected to be fully independent. And lastly, I will say this. Every man, every real man has a vision, has a journey, and has a purpose. And the primary function of the relationship of that marriage is for the spouse to journey together in that purpose and that vision. That is the purpose of marriage. Recreation of children is a secondary purpose of marriage, not even the primary one. A man requires his wife to, of course, after communicating that vision, to be able to speak to his life. The wife is also the highest authority in the man's life. Her words carry weight in his life. All right. So rather than having negative words or being silent, like you always say, convert that into speaking life into that man. Make him your champion, and he will be the champion of the world. I'll leave it at that for now.
Wow, 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 wow. Thank you so much, Coach Michael. That is some golden nuggets right there. So women, I hope you got that. The men are the ambassadors. They go through so much. And the men want us to understand them, that this is a man. I have my 14-year-old now that is trying to find his bearing, but he's making me know that, you know what, Mama, I am a man. I am the man in this house. And he's teaching me so much. He's teaching me a lot of things, honestly. So please, when they speak, let's hear them. And also, I love what you said, Coach Michael, about speaking life into your man. They need us. These men need us. They need that support system from us. There's this popular saying that behind every successful man, there is a woman. It's the woman that pours into the man that makes the man successful, not the one that would be, raining on them. So yes. And again, I love the word you use, real men. A real man will have a vision, I will have a purpose. We have a lot of men around, but we don't have a lot of real men. So that's another thing. And this is one of the things that we're going to talk about. How can we equip our men to be real men? Because there's not even enough of them out there. So we want real men. So there's a comment here. Before I go on to the next question, let me read Lorenta comment. Thank you very much, Mama. That's Mama Lily West. Very good point. One thing I'll add is about the woman's personal growth. And another thing is respect. Many men want us to sit at home like a furniture, even if it isn't what you want. They it shouldn't be so. No, let me see. I think, yes, I hear what you're saying. This shouldn't be so. It's important to grow together taking from experience, talking from experience, yep. My ex asked me to keep my medical certificates on the portmanteau after all my years of building and being trained by my father. Yeah, that's obviously insecurity on the part of the man. And, that's part of the childhood burden that we're having to battle, that is affecting relationship. I'm going to get into that in a bit more detail. But let me go very quickly. I think we push for time. My second question: what did and Mama, let me come to you again. What did nobody teach you about love and relationship that you had to learn the hard way, and that you wished you had been taught much earlier on? Mama, do you want to
Yeah.
comment?
All right. So we were taught how to love, but we were not taught how to sustain that love. That's one
Yeah.
of the things that hit me hard, because the storybooks, the films we watch, just put all of them together. They talk about this love that is so igniting that you can't even sit still. However, when you walk into the relationship, love goes on off days. It will just go on break, go on holiday. So at that point, what happens? So they didn't teach us that commitment is what keeps the relationship, and it has to be intentional. The other thing they didn't teach us is forgiveness. They didn't teach us forgiveness. We were, or let me just say, our perception about forgiveness, one big thing happens. We were not told that forgiveness is a daily thing. It's something that has to happen every day, and that you need to have a short-term memory, because if you don't, you sleep, you carry it over till the next day, and we're not supposed to carry it over till the next day. So you just need to have that mindset that, oh, it has happened, I let it go, and we move on. You cannot commit yourself to holding on to something that will destroy you. That should never be the case for any of us. The other thing I think they didn't tell us was the life we live with our family members, that they are so important, that they are embedded in our nervous system, and that we carry it along. And so when you walk into a relationship, you're carrying all of those baggages into that space. So I think that we also should be told, look, these things that have happened here, this is not how it's supposed to be. This is the real reality. This is how it's supposed to be. So that you are aware, you start to heal yourself before you walk into a new relationship. But we're not told all of those things. And so we're walking with all those, how will I put it? It's so much load to carry into a new relationship. So that will definitely impact on the new relationship that you have. Our partners cannot be everything. When you're getting married, the expectation here is that the husband will provide for you, your husband will do everything. So it's like you're marrying somebody who is like Jesus, who will save you from every aspect of life. And I see that that's not true, because you don't expect the man to be a provider, your emotional anchor, a friend, your gossip partner, and all of that. He is just a human being as well. He is imperfect and cannot meet all of those needs. So our expectation should be a bit, let's limit the expectation, so that you're not overburdening and expecting so much from this person who is imperfect, that cannot fulfill those needs for you. That's one. All right. Let me say one last thing.
Go ahead.
We should not make our homes a court. You say we should bring one partner. My partner is here. My husband is here. He's listening in. You don't make your home a court at all. You cannot argue over something and think you want to argue until you win. If you win, be sure to lose your relationship. So let me stop there.
Mama, thank you so much. I think this is blessing somebody out there. It's definitely blessing me. There's so many nuggets that you shared here. You know, and it looks like you even see my notes, because these are some of the things, you know, we're talking about where we're not taught. We are not taught these things, you know, how to sustain love. And so many people think love is enough. Love is never enough. Commitment, Mama says, is the key. I love what you said about forgiveness. Wow. And forgiveness is for you. So many people live in unforgiveness, and this thing can destroy the soul. That's in the interest of time, I'm just going to go. And please don't do start an argument to win. Your home is not a court. Yeah, don't start an argument to win. Okay. I love this. Coach Michael, are you with us? Let me ask this. There's a growing conversation about young men choosing to opt out of relationships and marriage altogether. From your perspective as a man, what is the driving force? What's driving that? And is it something that you understand from the inside?
First of all, again, Dr. West, thanks so much for that. That was quite insightful. Thank you. Sorry, I thought that was going to be the same question to me, though.
I got you.
Young men, I won't say I have an inside perspective, and probably an idea. And I understand I think it first of all starts with the fear of what they see. I mean, when we started, you gave us a stats that, 50% of marriages end up in divorce here in the UK. I mean, nobody sees a sinking ship and runs straight up into it and say, I want to go into that. So young people seeing the unfortunate failure rate of a lot of marriages, it's discouraging, it's fearful for a lot of men. And also when they see the repercussions of those failed marriages, the heartbreak, the betrayals, the pain, and the pressure that comes with it, it just makes it like, okay, is this what I really want to go into? And I think also another thing that's making them not so excited is also the lack of systems and structure to prepare men for these marriages. Okay, which is why what you're doing today, Coach, is very important, and why we should have more of these kind of conversations, because it will begin to at least give younger men the platform to have an understanding, have the training. Just like Doctor said, for example, the question you asked her, what were the things that we wish we knew? But we didn't understand. Now we have missed some of those things. Okay, why don't we have why are we not super intentional about making sure that the ones after us don't miss it? So I think having those structures to teach young men about leadership, because as a young man growing up, the only thing they put in your mind is, don't worry, just get a job. As long as you can have money, your marriage will be successful. That's the primary thing that every young man is told, or the belief that he has, and is totally false. Because it's one thing to have to be a provider, but nobody teaches men how to lead in marriage, how to lead in a relationship, how to lead the wife, how to lead with emotional intelligence, how to lead the vision, how to lead the children, into where they are going. So I think that fear, that lack of structure and systems to prepare men for marriage, and just the overall pressure and attack on the institution of marriage is one of the reasons. And I think it's very important that we begin to have more of these conversations to help younger men see marriage differently.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I think you touched on the other question. I was going to give you 2 minutes to address that. But yes, I think that's education is so important. Teaching the younger generation. And again, this is the whole essence of this webinar today. Did you want to add anything with that the same question I asked Dr.
No, that's why I kind of touched on that.
Yeah, I guess this one. Okay. Okay, so Dr. West, one last question for the women listening and the girls that are listening tonight who are maybe in painful relationship patterns and wondering if it can be different, what would you say to them?
Well, I have one, how will I put it? I have one phrase I tell myself. And what I tell myself all the time is the universe is in my hands. And I need to take charge of my environment. My environment cannot take charge of me. I am in control. God asked me as a human being to dominate my environment. So whatever in my environment I cannot dominate, I cannot take charge, have peace, then I need to rewrite the story. I have the pen, I am the author. I need to rewrite the story. But I would say, as a Christian, look for all means to make sure that there is peace. But if your life is in danger, if you're made to diminish yourself, to be small, and at the end of the day, you end up not being happy, there is room to work out. Even the Bible also says so. There is need for separation until all of those things are sorted out. That's how I'll just put it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That is so important. Giving power back to the woman. That's, you are in control of the story of your life. You know, I did a session a while back, rewrite your love story. You be the, you know, and it comes from being informed, having the right tool, the right information. Coach Michael, I'm coming to you with exactly the same question. What would you say to the young men or the men in this room who want to love well and don't always know how? What's the one thing you say to them?
Be intentional. Be intentional. Either fatherhood or husbandhood is probably the biggest project any man will ever carry. So they have to be super, super intentional. And by intentional, it means invest in it. If you need a coach, get a coach. Okay? The problem is that we think these things happen automatically. The most delicate relationship in our lives, we have no system or structure of really investing in it. A lot of families, a lot of relationships have never really had a conversation with a marriage counselor, or they've never really read a book on marriage. So how are you expected to succeed in something that you're not investing in? Okay, so intentionality is where it starts, because that intentionality will shape your attitude, it will shape your investments, and it will shape the decision and the outcome at the end of the day. So I'll just leave it at that. Be super, super intentional, invest in it, get a coach, read books, and then, yeah, take it up from there.
Thank you, thank you, thank you both. I really appreciate the insight that you've shared on this. Please don't go anywhere. We're going to bring you back at the end of this teaching session for some Q&A. So if you have questions for either Dr. Lily West or Dr. Michael, please keep your notes warm and give me 20 minutes. They're about to go into today's session. And I'm going to share my screen again. Where are we? Technology. Okay. So share first before you project. Yes. This.
Evelyn, my hand is up.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
All right. So I just want to buttress on the points Dr. Michael raised, and that has to do with a man having a purpose. One of the reasons I think that we're not where we're supposed to be, is that we have a lot of people who have derailed from what their purpose is. And so I think we need to have, in this theme, on this platform, a session for men to redefine their purpose. Why are they here? Why are they married? What do you want from the relationship? Real, a heart-to-heart search deeply in their hearts. Let them be honest to themselves. Because if you don't have a purpose and you can't communicate that purpose to your partner from the onset, that becomes a problem. Because you can't come in the middle of the journey and say, this is where we're going when we have agreed on something. So
Absolutely.
let that purpose be, clear to this woman, be clear to your family members, so we all dive into that purpose. And I think that will help all of us not derail. We will stay in those marriages, and there's no perfect one, but we'll all work at it. So I think that should be something we should be looking at. And Dr. Michael, I think you should also be part of that discussion.
Thank you very much for adding that. I think that again buttresses Dr. Michael's point that there is a need for re-education. Identifying purpose. The thing is, a lot of people don't even know where to start from, and that is what I've been, offering. Some of these men, they've stayed closed up for so long. They haven't got, they've not had that outlet. And if you just hold on to the end, I have a pathway that offers that avenue to connect, the avenue to connect, have those honest conversations. There is this man on YouTube. He goes around and he offers a rose or flower to men, and then he puts a note on there, and it always gets me each time. I think it's something like, something about, I think, Dr. Michael, you know what I'm talking about.
Is it the one that where he gives the man a rose and then he makes her, then the man gives it to his lady, kind of
yes,
like a surprise?
No, it's the comment. It's a comment that, for all the things that you've gone through, for that you cannot share with anybody.
Oh, okay.
I always, they zoom in on the men's their expression. It always gets to them that, this is for you, for all the things that you've had to carry on your own without being able to share with somebody. Sometimes you just see them, their heads goes down, and you can just imagine.
Exactly.
In those expressions, it just tells you so much. So this is an opportunity, we're warming up to something here where we're giving men that opportunity to open up in a safe space. I will go through that in detail. And then when you have a purpose, there was a time I shared a post recently in my community that if you don't have a purpose, it kills you more than any physical ailment does. Because we are put on this earth for a purpose, and our job is to till the ground until we find that purpose. And when you find it, it brings you alive, and that is it. So I'm conscious of time. We've got some comments. Let me go through some of this comment here before we go into our teaching. Chinyelu Okoli saying that we were not told so many things. That's so true. That's so true. We have only just scratched the surface. Yes, before marriage, you must see each other's strength. Yes, the successful marriage is learning to love others through both. Yes, learning. I love that word, learning, and that is what this is about. We have to learn. Just like with parenting, I always say that parenting, my goodness, it's a tough one. Because it doesn't come with a manual. You have a set of twins and you have to use different protocol to run the show. That's the job of the parents, and we have to still navigate it. And even if you run the protocol with to the minutest details, there's still no guarantee what the outcome will be. You can only pray and do your own best. So yes, and relationship is like that. It's so complicated because you have two complicated people, complex people coming together. So let's go straight into our teaching session. Okay, before I share, I have to, no, before I project, I have to share. Share my, there. Okay, you should be able to see my screen now. And I will now.
Yes, ma.
Yay. Okay, good. Right, so we've talked about the crisis, the need that we need to, right. So one of the things that Mama talks about is there's this baggage, and the truth, okay. The truth is we have this baggage. We all bring it. I call it, that's the number one shocking reason. I call it the invisible backpack. And what is this backpack? They're those childhood wounds that are running adult relationship. And, nobody told us that the things that were told to us, that were said to us, would come and manifest years after in our relationship. I'll give you an example. I think if maybe you can share that again for me, Dissy.
Okay, ma.
I came across this, and it talks about what children learn when they leave. If children live with criticism, they learn to condemn, right? If children live with hostility, they learn to fight, and then you just wonder where it's coming from. If the children live in fear, they learn to be apprehensive. If they live with pity, they learn to be sorry for themselves. So there's all of these things that we do or we say to children, or have been said to us as children, that is playing now. It's like having the computer, the memory in the computer, you keep filling it with different stuff, and when you first get this computer, it's working fine, and then you save this on there, and that gets saved on there, and you download stuff, and after a while, it starts to slow down. Apologies for the technical, the people here, I'm not that technical, but then if you're not careful with that, if you overload that thing, it could eventually crash. We've seen computer crashes and stuff like that, but it's pretty much the same way where you have all of this background things running, the things that you've been exposed to as a child. Let me go through some other ones. It's not all of them it's negative. Like if a child lives with approval, they learn to like themselves. If they live with recognition, they learn that it's good to have a goal. If they live with honesty, they learn to be truthful. If they live in security, they learn to have faith. And it just goes on like that. Some of these have their own flip side. Because for example, it says here, if a child live with praise, they learn appreciation. If they live with shame, they learn guilt. If a child is used to being praised, for instance, well done, it could also rewire their brain to think that, yes, for me to get that appreciation, for me to get acknowledged, my work is tied to that well done. So they get so hard on themselves. They're always so hard on themselves. It's I'll come back to that story, but let's carry on. And this is how does it show up? Where you have all of this background memories, the script that is running, it's running every action, every decision, and it shows up in your relationship. So you have two people coming together. You love me, I love you. Shall we do it? Let's do it. Okay. And they go into this relationship, and then you find that things along the way starts looking bumpy. You might say some things that the other person might think, where is this coming from? But it's all of those unhealed wounds. And when we talk about healing, it's not saying that you're damaged, it's just saying it's a state of reaching wholeness, showing up as your whole self. And the way these wounds play out is in what psychologists call your attachment style. And I call it the love map. With this love map, it shows it's like your internal blueprint. And it's something that was developed very early on in our years. And is what teaches us what love looks like. It's what teaches us what it feels like and how it behaves like, whether love is safe or whether it's dangerous. And that's what tells people whether, to leave or to stay, because you've seen some people have grown up in a home where it's an absentee father. So this attachment style is what teaches you to know whether you're worthy of being chosen, or whether you need to fight, whether you need to shrink or perform to earn affection. It's all down to how you have seen love displayed when you were growing up. And most relationship decisions are driven by those wounds that were formed when we didn't even have words for them. We didn't even know what was happening. We didn't know what was running the show. So these are love map. It's what determines how you show up in your relationship. So you could have, let's look at an example. You could have a woman who finds that they just keep attracting unavailable partners, right? Because she's following a map. That's what she's seen growing up. That's, she's grown up in a home where father is not always present. When it comes, he's off again. So to her, that's a pattern is standardized. So when she grows up, she's going to choose what feels familiar, because that script has been written. It's been written. Other times it's a child being abandoned, and you're thinking, and in our African culture, we have this culture of somebody taking you to one auntie's house or one uncle's house to go and live there, or grandparents' house. And oftentimes you find that you're the outcast. You get treated differently. And you'll be trying to find meaning. So why did my parents leave me to go on? Is it because I'm a bad child? Is it because they don't love me enough? Maybe I'm the reason for this, You start trying to find meaning to the things that are happening to you. Most of these parents, they are in survival mode. They are trying to figure out, because again, they didn't have the information, they didn't have the education. So they were in survival mode. And so all of their own inadequacies in navigating their own terrain is having a knock-on effect on you. Sometimes it's what somebody says to you. I was in a group discussion quite recently, actually, and this lady said something about she said she's always wanted to be a lawyer. She loves reading, she will apply herself, her literature skills, everything that she's done up until this one day, it pointed in that direction. So this day, the uncle came, one of those distant uncle. Hello, uncle, how are you? Hello, my dear. What do you want to be when you grow up? And this uncle, they know how to ask those questions. What do you want to be? And then this girl said, oh, I want to be a lawyer. Lawyer. Lawyers are liars. And that was it. Lawyers are liars. Those 3 words. And it just changed everything about that lady, because she just thought to herself, lawyers are liars. I don't want to be a liar, so I can't be a lawyer. I don't want to be a liar, so I can't be a lawyer. And those words manifested, they festered, they became life in her that ran her life. Today, she's not a lawyer, because each time she's leaning towards that. And back then, you don't really have control about the courses you choose. And so she didn't, because somebody spoke something. So how much more as a child? What are the things that have been spoken to you? Is it by your teachers? Is it by your parents? That you just hold on to. Again, I was listening to a story about this lady, it really broke my heart. She was only about 5, and because she was giving birth out of wedlock, she was struggling, and that child remembered as young as 3 to 5 she remembered her mom saying, because the family said the child must be a witch. So this woman, in whatever she was going through, called her 5-year-old and said, why doesn't your father's family like you? Are you really a witch? How can you have this conversation with a 5-year-old child? But that's what happened. That's what happened. So you can imagine. And then shortly after that, she went to just dump the child at the father's house and left. So this child grew up always seeking approval, wanting to belong. And there's some of us that have grown up with that gap, that void, wanting to belong. Where do I fit in? You know, wanting to be accepted. So we're talking about childhood baggage that we carry. Another way it shows up is people pleasing. You know, you don't want to rock the boat because maybe in the past, when you've done something in the process of going from one auntie's house or one uncle's house, or even in your own home, you do something wrong, the way they would apprehend you and, you know, scold you, and so it creates fear. And then this next one, where you self-sabotage. That one is you saying to yourself, all the negative talks you say to yourself, no, I can't do it. No, and all of these things it's as a result of your wiring in childhood. It's as a result of your wiring. So the gap here is that nobody told us that the things we went through in childhood is still right in our adult story, even till now. The choices we're making are being impacted by those things that we knew as children. And without the knowledge, we repeat the same cycle. And we don't even know we don't know we're already in the cycle. Some of us were lucky, I call it lucky, to be in a position to want to have a second chance at finding love and connection again. So you can't go into that terrain without the right tool. It's impossible. Otherwise, it only goes back to the same thing. Let's move on. So the love map, the attachments, your attachment style is formed in early years, and it's dictating who you choose. It dictates why we follow the same pattern. If you don't catch the pattern, if you don't recognize it, if you don't break the pattern, it's only a matter of time before it's reoccurs. And I want to leave you with this on here. It says the wound in the dark is the problem. When you have a wound, we've recognized now that there's a problem, there's an issue. But if it keeps sitting there, that's the problem. But healing begins when we bring it to light. Remember, healing is not saying that you're damaged or there's something wrong with you. It's just a term that is seeking for wholeness. And we're all on that journey of wholeness. Let me go to reason number 2 very quickly. Now, this one might be familiar. I call it the mirror. Okay. I call it the mirror, where I think Mama touched on it. Take us for who we are, right? And this happens to both on both sides, where you go into a relationship, you're looking for someone to complete you. You don't even know this is what you're looking for. Please, if you're not speaking, please put your phone on mute. Right. Okay. So we enter into a relationship looking for somebody else to complete us, not partnership. And sometimes you don't even know you're doing it. And I always say this, that you look for something when you, especially in the relationship space, you're looking for what is missing in your own life. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's normal. Now, I have a confession. You know, I recently enrolled in the dating site because I thought, yeah, why not? I've been out of marriage since for 8 years now. Let's shop around and see what's out there. I was shocked. I was shocked about the extent of the baggage that people are carrying, that they don't even know, they do not have a clue. And you know, you build your profile, and for some of you who have been on there, I know you know yourself. So okay, you build your profile and then you say what you want, and some of them you can see from the profile that it's screaming, need something. There's a gap, there's a void that they're screaming for somebody else to come and fill. And really, that's a recipe for disaster, because what they're not doing is look internally to see what that internal work that they need to do is. So we go into a relationship, you know, in the early stages, love bombing each other, buying gifts, doing all of this is so sweet. I mean, love is sweet. And then you have your reality comes. Shall we do it? Yes, I do. You did. And then when you go into it, sorry, I'm just checking my connection. So you go into marriage, reality arrives where, yes, sometimes it's argument here and there. It's normal, right? Sometimes it's the conflict. Sometimes it's somebody looking for that validation in the other person, thinking that this person, she's a correct babe. You know, if I marry this person, this man has got it together on the outside, is, you know, is this, he's got this, he's got that. And then you come together expecting that this man has really got everything going for him on the outside. You know, he has a good car, he's a company owner. But the man has his own internal demons that he's fighting. Those childhood traumas that he's not really dealt with. And it's only a matter of time before the cracks, the weight becomes visible after a while. And if it's because you're not equipped to check this, you're thinking that this person that I married is not ticking the boxes, or is not doing what he or she is meant to be doing in this marriage. It's not working. And then comes the collapse. And then comes the collapse. So the core message here is that no relationship can carry the weight of another person's unfinished inner work. I'm sorry to say that it's a work that you have to do internally on your own. Right? And the gap here is that society promotes the idea that you need somebody else to complete you. You know, in the UK here, there's a common terminology, my other half. If you want to introduce your partner, my other half, my better half. Why are you being a half when you can be a whole? The wholeness is not found in another person. The other person cannot make you whole. You have to build yourself into that wholeness. Okay? So a partnership can support that healing, that process of being whole, but it can't be the source of it. So for those of you like me that are going on the second chance, you look for somebody that can form that partnership with you, that can walk that journey with you, but don't expect them to be the one carrying that burden. No. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna, before I go into let me just do a quick, let me just do a quick stop share. I know I've said so much. I have one more point to make, but I just want to do a quick check-in. If any of this is resonating with you, please put in the chat for me. Put in the chat. In the chat. Okay. All right. In the interest of time, so again, I'm gonna have to apologize. It looks like we're gonna go over a bit, but I only have one more point to make. One more point to make, and I feel like if we're talking about relationship in a modern relationship, it will not be complete if we don't talk about, oops, I think this is the wrong side. I think it will be incomplete if we do not talk about technology. Okay, so the assumption here is that phones are destroying our relationship. You know, social media is destroying intimacy. The technology is the reason. Technology is because if it's not the phone, it's your laptop. A lot of people working from home these days. And, you know, we hardly put our phones down. Even on the dinner table, sometimes you have people texting and phone. We spend so much of our time on the phone, and it takes so much of our time. Excuse me. And if we didn't have that, our relationship would probably be better. That's what we've been hearing. And it may be true to some extent, right? But I want to offer you a different perspective. What if the phone isn't the reason that people disconnect? What if the devices, it's not the disease that is being treated, but it's your escape route. It's the thing that you feel, let me just hide behind this. Okay, so the phone is really not the problem. The problem here is the emotional unavailability. Take this. It's the emotional unavailability. Small this. Okay. Anyway. Okay. So the phone is not the problem, it's the emotional unavailability. And when I talk about emotional unavailability, if I can get the words out, it's the inability or the refusal to be present at the level of feeling. You know, you're there physically, but you're behind a screen. You're behind the screen. And the shock here is that, yes, the phone is not the disease. It's not what you're treating. It's the escape route from emotional unavailability. And here is how it plays out. You could be together. You could be watching something. You want to start a conversation, for instance. And then maybe you're going into a conversation, and then it's shifting into something serious. And no. When you're carrying those baggage, you can see from this picture, they still have those baggages that they're carrying that haven't been dealt with. And some of this, the way it plays out is that when you're having, you see some people deflecting when it comes to serious conversations. They're okay when you're joking and you're jesting and, you know, it's all going good. But once this conversation is moving to something a bit serious, they feel uncomfortable, they feel jittery, you know. They deflect to things like, oh, watch TV, or let me go and help you wash the plates now. or the phone. There is no depth. Anything that's going deeper than the surface feels unsafe for them. It feels unsafe. And this is part of what they've been exposed to growing up. They've grown up to see that vulnerability, it's not safe. I can't be vulnerable with my feelings. Okay. There's also, that feels unsafe, so they hide under the distraction. Some of them is the silence. Very happy to talk about, again, different things. Oh, let's do it this way, let's do it that way. The moment you say, honey, can we talk? Let's talk about us. More. Yes, I know men don't like hearing those words. Can we talk? A guy can break up with you if you tell him that. Anyway, so, but it's coming from somewhere. It's the fear that they've harbored, that they're not able to express or tell anybody about it. So you're in this relationship, you're never taught that emotional availability is a skill in itself. It's a skill, being emotionally available. You have to be intentional. I think it was Dr. Michael that mentioned that. Be intentional. And learn these things, because it can be developed. It can be developed, and that's some of the things that we're going to talk about in as part of our solutions that we're offering. But the message here is the most painful loneliness is not the absence of people. You can be in the same room. You can be full of a room full of people, but still feel lonely. The painful thing is the presence of someone who is not really there. You have a lot of married people who are living with their partners that feel so lonely. So lonely because the partners are not, they're just there physically. I talked at the beginning about marriages, they're in a state of crisis, and relationships that haven't broken, are just hanging by a string. And you have marriages, couples even, that are staying together and haven't been intimate for years, in the same home, under the same roof. And that's because there's no connection anymore. Okay, so I'm going to stop here for a bit. Let's stop here for a bit. Let me know which one of those resonates with you the most. Which one of those 3 points is it? The emotional baggage that you feel, or is it the connection base, wanting, seeing yourself or your partner as the person that completes you? Is it 1, 2, 3? Just let me know which one do you resonate with the most. Is it the first point, the second, or the third one? So quick reminder. The first one is childhood wounds are running the relationship. Excellent. So I'm going to open the floor now for, thank you. I'm going to open the floor for questions. We're going to spend the next 10 minutes with questions. I'm conscious that our time is fast spent, but I believe these conversations are very much needed. So Dr. Lily West and Dr. Michael Anthony, I'm going to bring you guys back up. So if there are any questions, I'm just going to look through to see if I have any questions on there. Ultimately, love is great. Family is wonderful, and getting it right is the challenge to sort out. Absolutely. Absolutely. 1 and 2, thank you. Thank you for the openness, Joy. Thank you. Appreciate that. I think can definitely see myself in perhaps even all three. All three. But sometimes, these things, they're very silent. You don't even know that it's running the show. And only recently I attended a course, a discussion session like this, and we're talking about how some of the childhood things that we went through, and how it's translating in our adult life. And I thought to myself, because we're talking about anchors, some of the things that anchor you to a particular pattern. And anchors can be short or can be long. When you have short anchors, you feel stuck. You're not able to make decisions. So many of these things that you've gone through play up. But we have long anchors. It feels on the surface that things are going okay. You've got a good job. You're doing well. You're doing well in your business, and things are fine. But when you reach the end of that anchor, that thing that is running the show in the background pulls you back. And those are the things, those layers that we want to deal with, that we want to get to the end of. Okay. Can we touch base regarding cultural differences and transmission from Nigeria to the UK? Okay, if you want to unmute, I'm not sure I understand the question. If you want to unmute, that's fine.
Yeah, if sorry, Coach, for just jumping there for a minute, because I was just looking at that question. I was just about to bring your attention to it, and I think that's like a whole book on its own, a whole case study on its own, the cultural differences, and moving here to the UK and what that does to marriages and relationships. It's a major issue. I think anybody in the diaspora can directly relate to this, because I feel that life in the abroad, like we call it, really stress tests the principles of marriage that we've been talking about. Because, back home, there's a lot of things that, let's say men, for example, will take for granted. It's a lot of things that men get away with. It's a lot of things that they can maneuver. But the system here, puts you on your toes. And it will definitely put you under pressure, especially in the first few years, which is expected, which is natural, because, you've just done a major shift, a major change, cultural shift, atmosphere change, and all that. So more than ever, and the reason why we see a lot of marriages under stress, in this part of the country, is because more than ever, these principles that you've been talking about, Coach, is, how do I put it? It cannot be overemphasized. It cannot just be overemphasized, or else, if those things are not put in place, the system here will exert pressure on your relationship. And if these standards are not there, it's going to break. It's going to crack, or it's going to break, or it's going to be redefined. All right. So, yes, I just, if Prince wants to jump on and share some light on his perspective, and that would be great.
Thank you, Coach Michael. Yes, I agree with you. I think this is a masterclass in itself, and it has to be an ongoing one, because, frankly speaking, I believe people who have jackpot to come to the UK, they need that additional support, because they're having to navigate a lot of things. And first of all, it's a new terrain, and secondly, it's the fact that when everything that all the cushion that you've had to enjoy when you're, in a society where there's a good support system, when that's taken, all you have left is the two of you here. It's the two of you. And that's one of the things that, it's quickly comes to light. And the real emphasis why we need to do that repair work now, because a lot of people, you have the younger children, they cause distraction. You're able to put all your energy into bringing up the children, and most times in the process of doing that, your own well-being, relationship health is suffering. And again, the children are used as a distraction, because if you have good relationship dynamics, you would find time, even with the children in there, to come together, build each other, and do the work of building. But oftentimes, when the cracks start showing, we use our children as the distraction. That this one won't attack. I have control over this one.
Exactly. Sorry, Ade Owolabi has his hands up.
Yes. Okay. Go ahead.
Good, I don't know, is it good evening or good morning?
Good evening.
Depending on where. Thank you so much. This has been very, lots of reminders and very inspiring as well. I really appreciate the two-man panel, amazing people. Thank you, Dr. Lily West and Dr. Michael Anthony. Regarding the question or the point just raised about cultural thing and all of that, you see, when relocation is really not a problem, but taking that as an instance, relocation exposes the truth or the lie that your marriage is built on. There is something about the truth. The truth does not change because you change location. The truth does not change because you changed jobs. The truth does not change because you suddenly became a millionaire. The truth does not change because the woman suddenly started earning more than the man. The truth does not change just because the man suddenly lost his job or he made a wrong financial decision and he lost everything, right? So relocation exposes the truth or the lies that you have since built your relationship or your marriage on. One of the fundamental problems we have in marriage is that we think we know marriage. But a lot of people are honestly building marriage on sentiments, on personal individual beliefs, rather than on the truth of the one who created and designed marriage. We have organizations that have been founded hundreds of years ago that are still doing well today because they were founded on principles and on systems and structures. How would God Almighty, the all-wise God, design and institute such an important institution as marriage without systems and structures? But the problem is we human beings are too intelligent that we do not embrace God's truth, but we believe we are so intelligent that we can create our own systems and structures, and it doesn't work because you didn't create marriage. So if you did not create marriage, you cannot determine the terms and conditions under which it will work. It's not your product. So relocation exposes the truth and the lies that we build our relationships on. So, for example, we talk about provision, and again, this is one of the problems. We don't even understand what that means. The provider role of the man is not just about money, such that even when a man does not have money, he is still a man. Right? But the lies we've believed is, look, even the average man has linked his identity and purpose to two things: my ability to make money and, provide for my family financially and to satisfy a woman in bed. If you take those two things away from him, an average man cannot find himself. He's lost. Right? Good. So, but the provision role of a man is beyond whether he has a job now or he doesn't have a job. Of course, finances is part of it, but the real core is you are a provider because you create the right infrastructure and systems for your family and for every member of your family to thrive, such that when a man is covering his family in prayer, when he's advising his wife, when he's doing homework with his children, he's providing. Okay? When he's fulfilling the role of a priest in his home, he's providing. But guess the lie now. Because he's not able to give me money, he's not a man and he's not a provider. That's a lie. Because our definitions are those are part of the things that are setting us up. We have defined marriage wrong. We have defined the man wrong. We have defined the woman wrong. Even our definition to love is wrong. Right? So, I don't want to say too much, but honestly, if we begin to see how dysfunctional we have become And we begin to seek alignment, because that's the solution. And
Yeah.
how do we seek alignment? Is obedience. Obedience to the landlord, the owner, the designer, the author, the creator of marriage. Because what we have is every human being, because we are very intelligent, and thank God we are beginning to fabricate foundations that marriage cannot stand on. But God, the one who designed it, had designed it for a purpose. Another thing is the reasons for which people are getting married is wrong. We do not understand marriage is a kingdom agenda and it's a mission field. Marriage was not designed for marriage, it was designed for a reason. So if you come into marriage for your reason, that's already a marriage that cannot fulfill God's purpose. That's a failure already. All right. So the way to begin to right the wrong is to begin to understand that, first of all, we have been doing marriage from the place of dysfunction, not from the place of truth.
Yeah.
Even when we claim to love our spouses, we are loving from a place of dysfunction. Even when we are talking about love languages, we're having love languages out of the place of dysfunction, because the love languages that you would have is largely dependent on how you were raised. What's the factor surrounding your growth and all of that defines. You see, we were not born with these love languages. We were not born with these personality types, right? We got all of those things when we got here, when we arrived here, when we began fraternizing with our environment, when we began relating with, our realities, right? So it's a very long conversation. I like the reasons you've highlighted tonight. The first, the second, most importantly, and I like what you said about the technology part. Technology is not the problem, honestly. It's not the problem. Technology is a blessing, and it can be a curse and a blessing depending on how you use it. Yeah, so I really appreciate this conversation. I like the contributions from our two-man panel. Thank you. And I'm hoping my expectations are really high. I'm going to stay till the end of this meeting, even if it takes 2 hours more. Thank you so much for what you're doing. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Please, can we give a round of applause to Ade Owolabi? I think it's it's so insightful. It just summarizes everything that we've talked about. That there is work to be done. There is a need, and marriages is our definition of marriage is wrong. It's based on identity, and that's one of the work that we do in my community. When you strip everything that you have, your title, your possession, what is left? What identity are you assuming? What identity are you running with? Because that runs the show. Thank you. That's really that really takes me to my next slide. I just got a couple more. First, let me apologize that we're running over, but like I said, I think these conversations are very, very necessary. So I'm going to, I need to share first. Sorry, I'm a bit of a rookie at technology, but I'm trying. Okay, so I'm sharing now, and then I can okay, just bear with me a couple more slides. Okay, can you see my slides now? Yes, you can. Right. Okay. We've gone through this. We've gone through this. Right. So thank you for that last speaker for throwing, such light on it, because it's bigger than one person. It's something that collectively we need to work on. And this slide here is saying that if we don't do something, what stays unhealed doesn't stay hidden. It's only a matter of time before we start to see the cracks. And that's why with all this jackback people, sorry to use that word, but we're seeing the cracks. And the gentleman said it's not the society that made the cracks show. It's because it's what's been there that is now being evident, because it can't stay hidden anymore. And if nothing is done, you'll find that the cycle repeats itself. The children that we have now, they are seeing those things. The ones that are the young adults, They are also going into relationships now. They will have their own children, and if care is not taken, if something is not done, the same pattern. Those young adults who have seen all of this brokenness, who have grown up with all the emotional baggage that they've seen, or dysfunction in the family, they're going to end up repeating that pattern because that's what was modeled to them. They will go on and model it to their children. And then, I said something about we're all designed for love and connection. So it's only a matter of time, even if you went through the most toxic relationship, after a while, the desire for connection will come again. And so if we don't get it right, you go into another relationship, it's all well and good at the beginning, and then before you know it, you start to experience the burnout. So the level of mental health now, and most of these are related to relationship, to broken relationships, So you have all of this at play. Low self-esteem. I think it was Dr. Michael that mentioned that, you want to come to your home and know that the woman has got you in the corner. When the woman is speaking life into you. When you do life on your own, it's tough. With some men, the fear of what will my wife say. I fear her mouth. Doesn't even help them or make them push themselves to do it, to try. And yet the woman is there nagging and saying, you don't do anything for yourself. You are there, you are stagnant, you are not doing enough. The man needs that support system. And ultimately, we're painting a picture now, what could go wrong? It's, there's increased disease risk. When you're constantly in a toxic environment where you're not happy, some people, their joy is outside the home. They're coming into the house and their hearts are heavy. You cannot be in that environment and the cells of your body will thrive. No. And over time, you have high susceptibility of being long chronic disease. You have stress and even reduced lifespan or quality of life. And then you have the family dysfunction. Remember, we said the ripple effect. It goes from two people having dysfunction. It trickles to the family, and then it trickles to the community. There's something they call adverse childhood experiences, and this is where a child is grown in a toxic environment where they experience negligence or abuse of some sort. They're constantly in that environment. So they grew up being dysfunctional. We have a society that is this community that is dysfunctional. A society, like, why is society being dysfunctional? Even now we're seeing it. There's a knock-on effect on the educational career setback. We're not able to, even in schools, our children, when children have to go through these things, it affects how they show up in school. It affects their academic performance. There is worsening public health and all sorts. The crime rate is next to none. You go to our prison, you see a lot of our boys there because the home is fractured. There is nobody there. The man is not taking their role in the family, in the home. So, and everyone is impacted. So where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? This is where we have to start. What we've heard tonight is just diagnosis. There is a prescription, and we cannot keep quiet. We can no longer keep quiet. So what am I offering? Two options. There is the relationship clarity call, and this one is for, men. We have our men who, a lot of them have been used to not speaking. So if you're that person that just want that one-on-one, You want somebody that you can open up with and speak your mind and start to, have something personalized, something focused, the honest conversation, the things that you cannot speak to your wife or to people that knows you, people that you think that you've got it all together, it's all happening, but you have that there. We have to start this journey from somewhere. And immediate action is needed. We have to start from somewhere. So one of the things I offer as part of that is the Love Map self-assessment workbook, where you know what your attachment style is. The attachment style, like I said, is something that you acquire based on how love has been modeled to you. You can't give more than what you don't have, right? But this assessment will help you to start to almost like peeling back the layers and helping you see things. You start to catch this, know what your own attachment style is. And information is power. When you have this, it helps you to go into a relationship better informed. Some of us, like I said, we have the second chance at this, and we want to get it right. We want to get it right, right? Then I have the cycle breaker guide. The cycle, I talked about the anchor. The anchor allows you something that's embedded inside you. And it's been written as a result of those childhood scripts, right? Now, what the cycle breaker does is it helps you to identify when the cycle is coming, when the pattern is coming, and it teaches you what to do, right? So those are some of the preliminary work that I'm going to offer. And then you have the 30-day healing intention journal. Coach Michael mentioned about being intentional. This is a journey. It's a journey of purpose, and it starts from somewhere. And for the women here, we have the access to our Beyond Beauty community. I don't have a community yet for men, but that's something that is needed. A forum where men can really come together, understand what's the how we think, what's happening in the minds of women. And then the second option is a relationship masterclass, where it's going to be a group like this. It's going to be a group like this. We're going to have action. It's going to be filled with action, practical actions that we're going to be going through. Some tools, clarity, direction, a discussion, like in-depth discussions. And then everything else I've said remains the same. I've given you a sneak preview already. It's £47, and this is, for those in Nigeria, is 90k, and for those in the UK, it's £47 only. You can't even take a family out on that. For the group session, it's £27 only, and 50k for those in Nigeria. I want to make this so accessible because it's about taking that action. You might think now that I'm untouchable, everything is fine, the relationship is okay, it's going great. There's something about we women, and I've seen this happen. Mama mentioned something. She said, silence. When a woman is silent, she's speaking. And you don't want to get to a point where the woman stops speaking. It's always an indication that something has been broken. When she's still nagging and saying stuff, and I saw this with my father. My father was with her, well, it was, God rest his soul. He had this lady that's, well, I'll call her second wife, eventually became a second wife. And I remember my father used to take me there when I was still in school, right? And I'll just keep because I don't want to wahala in the house. But when my father relocated to our hometown, she moved with him. And altogether, they were together for 37 years. Do you know that when my father was almost 90, this woman left? She left him at almost 90. that we have to be worrying that, oh my God, that is not alone, that is not alone. So sometimes, and I've seen another one where, it's a friend, he just called me up and said, guess what? Your sister has left, though. And these are couples that you look at them from afar, and you're like, wow, you really wish that your own is like that you find somebody. But the cracks are there. The cracks are there. So we don't want to get to when we don't want to leave this without acting now. We don't want to say we have time, because we don't. Every time that we stay without action is valuable time that we could be building something, building a legacy. And remember that what I said at the beginning, that God needs family units. He needs to move through family, and it's like an attack on family. The enemy is trying to disintegrate family units. And when we're like that, we cannot function. When things are not okay in the home, you cannot function. So this is my offer to you. You should already have the links in the chat. Right. So I'm going to leave this here. The links are in the chat. So payment links are in the chat. I will stop sharing for a bit. Let's take some comments. Question, your takeaways.
Hi, Coach. I just want to pop in for a second here.
Sure.
Again, wonderful presentation, wonderful topic. I mean, everybody, your room has been steady from the beginning till now, so that tells you something. And the guy that spoke last, is he still in the room? I can't see him though. Okay, he's still here. Thank you so much. I just want to touch on something you touched on, which is two things. You spoke from the perspective of two major principles of purpose, and that's that the purpose of a thing is determined by the manufacturer of that thing. And you said it very eloquently. Marriage, this relationship thing called marriage, was designed and manufactured by God. So to understand the regulation, the principles, the patterns, the principles, and the purpose of it, we have to go back to the manufacturer. All right. And the other principle is that the design of anything, the purpose of anything determines the design. The purpose that something was meant to carry will determine the design in which it functions in. So the design of marriage is also one of the problems that's been attacked. Marriage has a hierarchy. It has the man, the woman, the children. You see, that design has also been redefined. Okay. So if we don't go back to those fundamentals, it will not work. It's no surprise that we see people in the Middle East with the least amount of marriage issues. And that's because when it comes to design, they still maintain the design of the manufacturer. Okay, just wanted to touch on that. And then secondly, I really want to admonish and encourage everybody here. If you've never had a one-on-one session with a coach about your relationship or your marriage or anything, I beg you, please do. This is an opportunity to do it. We've all established how important this is. I mean, as a coach myself and those coaches in these rooms, we see these things on a regular basis. All right. So it's exceptionally important. Listen, your church is not going to solve this problem for you, because if your church will solve it, you wouldn't have it in the first place. Neither will your mosque solve it for you. Okay. Because you need that X-ray lens, you need that one-on-one in the room, you need that intimate conversation. Okay, so what I'm going to do, and I didn't even say this to Coach Evelyn, I'm going to also throw a bonus into that offer. For anyone that takes that offer, I'm also going to give a 90 minutes one-on-one clarity session for purpose discovery. Okay, for those that don't know, my thing is to help you discover your purpose, develop it, and deploy it. It's a gift I have. 90 minutes in the room with me, and you will come out having absolute clarity of your identity. And that's the identity that you will carry into your relationship. Understand that what you offer in your relationship is who you are. And you can only offer, your relationship cannot be higher than the identity that you have. So the question is, what is your identity? Who are you really? Why are you here? What were you here to do? What are your potential? What's your destiny and your destination? If you cannot have answers to those 5 questions, any relationship you're in will suffer. It doesn't matter how nice the woman is. It doesn't matter what changes. If you don't have those fundamentals, it will suffer. It's just a matter of time. So I really want to say this is an opportunity. Jump on it because you might never see it come to you like this again.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you. That's a golden nugget right there. If you haven't met with Dr. Michael, honestly, this clarity session, it opens you up to say, wow, so this is it. So if you're feeling stuck, it helps you to have, those building blocks that you need to start journeying and being that best version of yourself. So I really encourage you. Please, the links are in the chat. The links are in the chat. And if you need to speak to me, if you need, I don't think this is something that you should be split, but it's about accessibility. It's about having access to it and doing something, because it's a collective thing. We are all in this in the society. So if the society breaks down, it affects us. It affects everybody. So let me take any questions. We still have Dr. Michael here. We have Dr. Lily West. And we have a third person, the powerhouse, Dr. Ade Owolabi. I don't know who you are, but your contribution was really invaluable. So thank you so much. Thank you. So if you have any question, any takeaways, what are your takeaways from this session? And what are you doing differently? This room is a bit quiet. Please, I need some feedback. I need some feedback.
The main takeaway is to sign up for that program, except everybody in this room is saying that, they have it all jolly good.
Exactly.
The main takeaway is to invest, because again, I really, unfortunately, sorry, not unfortunately, I find myself just trying to hammer down on this because I've seen this too many times. People come into a room like this, get exceptional content, exceptional information, and you think that's all it takes. See, if we don't begin to invest in the things that matter, those things will not change. That's the truth. Do you know, from a spiritual principle, the fact that the concept of sowing into your relationship will begin to bear fruit for you? Just the attention, just the mindset that, okay, I want to see this work. Let me sow into this my relationship and see what comes out of it. All right? Very, very important. I just really want to stress that. Ade, sounds like you were going to say something.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. It's so sad that sometimes people don't really understand what things like this can do for them. They just believe that they have the solution somewhere inside of them, and you can live like that for 30 years and eventually give up on the marriage that had the potential to work. You just didn't know how. All right. So I totally agree with all you said. I didn't want to have to repeat, but yeah, I just hope that people will see the value in this and take advantage of it, because what you don't know, you don't know. I mean, there's a place for prayer, and then some people have been praying, and here is God bringing the solution to your doorstep. And then you still go back praying when God has somewhat answered your prayers. You can pray for 30 years that way. What else do you want God to do? So yeah, I just hope people will see the value in this and then take advantage of it. Thank you.
Coach Evelyn, I think you're still sharing. I want to stop sharing the screen.
No, I wanted to put the QR code up.
Okay.
So the links are also in the chat. So yes, let me stop sharing so we can see our faces, see if there are any comments. Okay. So I know we've taken a lot longer than we wanted to, and I just want to appreciate our speakers and Ade Owolabi. Thank you so much for your additions. I really appreciate it. And
thank you, ma'am. I was invited by Charity, by the way. I don't know.
Oh,
Charity?
okay.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. That's amazing. Auntie Moke, Auntie Jimmy, how are you? I see you. Okay. All right. So I'm going to close the room and I'll probably get some.
Can I say something?
Oh,
Can you
please
hear me?
do. Hey.
I was just going to say what pleases me is that this involves both men and women. One of my biggest criticisms for years was, why are there always empowerment programs for women? And yet we hardly see men in the room.
Thank you,
We
Fatima.
need things that are combined, because if one group gets more empowered, there will never be equilibrium or balance. We
100%.
need both people empowered, especially with the same information that is going to equip them. So this, for me, was fantastic because it involved both sexes, both genders, and empowering, men and women equally. So thank you.
Thank you, thank you. And I'd like to hear from the men, a lot of them have stayed with us till the end. And I agree, there's the men have been silent for a long time.
Men, speak up. Or where are the men in the house? Let me start calling them out.
The men have been silent for a long time. I said something about learning from my 14-year-old, and just a few days ago, he said something. We're always back and forth. And he said something, and I said, please tell me who told you that? He said, no, I'm not telling you. I said, I'm not going to go back and, react or whatever. I just wanted to. But no matter how much I tried, he didn't. He didn't share it with me. And the following day, I asked him that, that means that you didn't trust me enough with that information. That's why you withheld it, even though you knew that I wasn't going to do anything about it. And sometimes it's what you it's catching, examining yourself. How are the things you're doing now translating to your child? Because if my 14-year-old is not able to open up, doesn't feel safe enough to say, okay, I want to open up, then I have to do something. I have to catch that. I have to say, you know what, I need to work on it to create the environment where he is safe enough to be open. Because you can imagine, if I don't work on that and create that environment, what's going to happen is when he gets married, when he starts forming a relationship. There was one, Auntie Jimmy, do you have your hand up? Auntie Jimmy, do you have your hand up? Okay. All right, I'll continue. So there was one presenter that was on Instagram recently, and there was so much backlashing that was going on because he was bluffing. I said, oh, my wife, when she does something, I know what to do. I just give her the silent treatment. And yeah, I know what to do. And he got a lot of backlashing for that. And eventually, I think the woman left anyway with somebody else. And so where did he learn that from, the silent treatment? It was learned from somewhere, from his own, maybe when he was growing up, maybe that was the default response that he got. So he's normalized it to the point that he was even coming online to come and brag about it. That's how I do it, my wife. When she does something, if I want to call her attention, I just give her silent treatment. And it felt so normal to him. So what are we normalizing in our relationships? What are we normalizing? So Auntie Moke, sorry, Mr. Olowolabi, do you want to say something?
Yes, I like what Dr. Anthony said quite a few things at the start, which I really, really appreciate. Um, I, so I've seen men, well, I'm a man, God is helping us. I've seen a lot of men try to be more open, but so what I realized, and I don't know if it's something that will be understood, and I'm very careful about how I'm putting it out. But please just hear me. It might not be the entire truth, but just hear me. While it's very uncomfortable for an average man to put himself out, especially to his woman, I've seen some men try, and they get judged in a certain way or blamed for being vulnerable. I've seen a woman complain about a situation, something happened, it was so scary. And then what broke me the most was that my husband was crying. Somebody is supposed to be holding us all up. He's crying. What am I supposed to do? So society tells the men need to speak up more. You need to be vulnerable. You need to understand that you can be emotional too. But a lot of women are not ready for that truth.
Yes.
And men know that I've tested you with a few things and I can see that you can handle it. So I'm also trying to protect you by keeping quiet. Now, I'm not saying it solves the problem, but I've tested it with a few times, and I saw how it went down. So I'm also trying to protect you because I see that what I'm bringing is not something you are able to accommodate. And then the cycle continues. My husband doesn't talk to me. He doesn't, but he has spoken a little bit at a time, and it came splashing back on his face. So now the average man is battling between, okay, I hear this. I need to be more vulnerable with my wife. I need to be more open. I need to be, but I've tried and it didn't work out. What do you want me to do? So they are even more confused. And now they are even drawn more deeper into their shell. It doesn't solve the problem. But the truth is, a lot of women can honestly, let me put it this way, a lot of women don't have the capacity as at now to handle the truth of their men. And it's a fact, right? So Jesus told his disciples, I have so much to tell you, but you cannot handle them now. It's also not wise to talk more than necessary. It's also not wise putting a burden on someone the person cannot handle. It's also not wise. So a lot of women ask for something they honestly are not ready for, right? Then also, one of the ways you are able to earn trust, look, love is unconditional. No questions asked. But trust must be given carefully. God loves us all, but God does not trust us all. There are some things God will not trust some people with, even though he loves them, right? Good. So how you handle the things you are not happy about goes a long way in telling your husband what he can trust you with. I'll say that again. How you handle as a woman, as a wife, the things you are not happy about goes a long way in how much trust your husband will be willing to give. Because when you don't get what you want, your character shows up. We can only trust character, not wife, not husband. It's character that can be trusted. So if I have not seen the depth of character I can lean on, why judge or blame me for not speaking up? Right? So you mentioned something about your 14-year-old boy. If one of the things I have learned is if you reflect well deeply enough with the help of the Holy Spirit, you begin to see the role you play, or we begin to see the role we play in the outcomes we are getting. Because one of the worst things that can happen to you is to blame everybody else and never see the part you played in the problem. Even if the part was 10%, you taking ownership of your 10% will go a long way in you achieving better outcomes. But if you never see the 10%, you just might never have more than you have. You just get worse. So before you know it, the 5/10 becomes 4/10, becomes 3/10. Then before you know it, before your very eyes, you have nothing to fight for anymore. And that's where people get to, and then they call it quits. But it didn't start from there, right? So you need to be able to see the role you are playing in the outcomes you're getting. So you talked about your 14-year-old boy. That should cause you to really reflect. right? Really reflect. How you see, because if you don't reflect, you will just judge him as you say, this is a boy thing, it's a man thing. This is how this man grew up to become quiet. This is how this man grew up not to talk. No, there is something there you need to look at, right? So again, I say, how you handle what you do not like, that is where you can end trust, but that is where we all fall down. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That's so helpful. Yes, yeah, and you're right. When I saw that, I thought to myself, there is work to be done, because it cannot go into a relationship like that. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to counter Tayo Olasope.
Okay. Just before Tayo comes up, if you don't mind me saying, everything that the mother just said, the women, the capacity to handle information and capacity to handle the vulnerability of a man is why having a one-on-one session of coaching is important. You're not because the question is, where are you going to build that capacity? Where? It's not your husband that's going to teach you all of it directly. You need to invest in yourself. And this goes both ways. And I think somebody said that, women sort of said that. You're absolutely right. It goes both ways. So you have to go and invest in that capacity building. You have to go and talk to a third party, a neutral party. Because again, it shocks me. It really does shock me that for something that's important in this, I'm sure if we do a census in this room now, who here has had a professional consultation about their marriage? I'm sure it will be less than half of the room. But again, we're wondering why this thing is going, you probably have visited a doctor, you've visited an accountant, a lawyer, for things that are not even as important as this. Again, I'm doubling down, okay? And I'm saying before this room closes, please go and lock in that session with Coach Evelyn and myself. Mine is a bonus, okay? Understand that this is not a career, it's an assignment. It's not a career, it's an assignment for that kingdom come. Let that drop. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you. Over to you, Tayo.
Hello.
Hey.
Yeah, I've been listening quietly. Thanks a lot for putting this on. So the first thing I want to say is there's a risk of us generalizing. The reason I say so is I'll start with the Christianity angle. Marriage exists in every culture. It exists in every religion, not just with Christianity. It exists within atheist communities. So, whilst if you're a Christian, then deal with marriage the way the Bible teaches you. But I just want us to be careful that it's not necessarily just based on religion. The other thing about generalizing is I'll take the example of trust or a man being open and being vulnerable to a woman. Let's not forget something. Everyone is unique. Every single relationship is unique. I have my flaws. You have your flaws. The flaws I have may be perfectly acceptable to one person and yet completely unacceptable to another person. With one person, I may be the perfect partner. And the person will be saying, I've been blessed. I've never met someone like Tayo. My life wouldn't be the same without Tayo. And yet, me, the same person, with someone else, may come across as a curse. And the person may be saying the exact opposite. It's like, my life has been a nightmare because I met this guy. So, in some cases, so rather than saying men should be vulnerable, men should not be vulnerable, I think it depends on the man. It depends on the partner you choose. In some relationships, the woman is stronger than the man. And I know traditionalists may think that that's not right or that's a recipe for disaster. There are marriages based on that work. There are marriages that are based on completely different things from what we're talking. Well, the man may not talk at all, and it works. And yet, there are marriages where the man is vulnerable, talks a lot, and it may not work. And yet, it may work in others. So, I'm not trying to put on a sales pitch, but when it comes to things to do with marriage counseling, I've done counseling in the past, but not marriage specifically. It comes down to knowing each partner, because whilst we may generalize about these are the things that causes breakups in most relationships, what causes breakups in every single relationship is unique. It's different. So like I said, this isn't a sales pitch by me, but if you are concerned and you want your relationship to work, you need to understand what it is, who you are, who your partner is, what works, what doesn't work. Because the recipe that you have for myself and my partner would be completely different from the recipe that works for someone else. So it's really good to have the conversations. It's good to debate these things. But I think ultimately it's I'll be careful about generalizing that this is the way it's going to work. This is the way it's not going to work. This is the impact coming to the UK has on marriages. It affects everyone uniquely. And yeah, bottom line is each person needs to find out what works for them. Each person needs to find out what their situation is, and each person needs to find out what the bespoke advice, the bespoke journey they need to go on to make things work for them. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you very much for sharing that. And I fully agree with you. And that's exactly what the one-on-one clarity session is, because it's personalized to every individual. So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. It's about, giving the opportunity to engage and start, what's specific to you, what's your own peculiar journey has been, and looking at that with a fine-tooth comb. I'm going to piggyback on what you said about, almost like a one man's meat is another man's poison. I have a very good friend of mine who's been married for about 20 years. And then the marriage got to a point where the wife said, no, I'm not doing anymore. I'm filing for divorce. He thought it was a joke. But to cut the long story short, the marriage is ending. And so he's got the freedom now. He's back on the dating scene and he's going like, wow, look at me that was rejected after all my sacrifices all these years. I was rejected. Nobody could see the good in me. Now these girls are meeting, they're singing my praises. Oh my God, I'm the next thing after sliced bread. And so I'm like, oh, well and good. Excellent, excellent. But, it's a very good friend of mine, I know. And I know that there are things that needs to work on. And even before the marriage broke, I knew that the marriage was heading that way, because there are things that as a friend, I've known that if you don't do some internal work, there's no cutting corners in some of these things. We're talking about showing up as whole. Even if the person that you're with doesn't see that lack of wholeness, it's only a matter of time that the crack starts to show. So in essence, we're not doing it for the other person. It's for you to feel that internal fulfillment, because beyond marriage, there's even a higher calling upon everybody, a higher demand for everybody to show up as their highest self. So are we there? Are we in that place where we've emptied ourselves of everything that we know we're here for? Because we're all an answer to a cry in God's heart. We are all here for a purpose. We have a mandate. We have God's purpose that He wants to manifest through us. So, and that's important, that we don't let any marital relationship or any relationship that we're in derail us from that. So it's us first, building yourself first. That is the key here. And so to answer your question, yes, there is not one size fits all. We have our customized one-on-one session, which I'm promoting. I'm going to come to Fatima. You have your hand up.
Oh, hello. Yes. No, I just want, it was just to talk about, there was a gentleman that talked about women don't like vulnerability. So because I was always very close to my pastor, people would tell me their problems and then I would bring it to him as scenarios. One thing he taught me was, in a marriage, trust is very important. Communicate, even if it's very painful and difficult. Allow the person to hear it and process it. Because when it's unraveled in the future without them knowing, it creates so many problems that you wish you had just said the difficult thing. So I would always go back to tell friends who would tell me their challenges. And one particular friend was in so much debt here in the UK and her husband didn't know. So she would tell me, one day I told her, you need to tell your husband because what you're doing is you're keeping this from him, saying it would be difficult for him to hear it. She then decided to go and tell him. And you know, she was surprised at his reaction. He was not happy, but he said, we've got a family, we've got children, we need to work together to sort this out. Even though, you know, he was showing this lack of, I'm not happy with this. Yes, it took him time to trust her with money, but it freed her. It freed them. So communication and trust to me are very important. So I was just trying to say that even if somebody finds it difficult with your vulnerability, perhaps communicate to them that I find it difficult to tell you things because of the way you behave. Start from there because maybe it's their work to do to get to a place where you can effectively communicate.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I think his name has already mentioned it also. What I find also, just alluding to what the men said, that they don't feel comfortable that women are ready to hear it. And it's down to, again, the knowledge gap, where we need to equip one another, you know, to a degree where we're emotionally available for one another. Now, when a man who doesn't normally talk, when they get the courage to eventually open up, before they even get to that point, the fear is there that I might be shut down. You know, I might get this response. And so when the response they're getting back is not a palatable one, it just reinforces that fear, and that loop continues. So to get the man to break away from that is another challenge, you know, to find somebody that they really trust and can open up with. And, you know, I can't remember who mentioned something about the man crying and the woman was like, oh my God, I'm afraid, you know, why would the man cry? You know, there's so many things that we've allowed the society to put upon us, and we've taken it, and it's about time that we start to speak openly about those things and you know, rewrite the narrative that it's fine because men have emotions just like women. You know, we go through the same thing, and again, just like with house chores, we're not super women where the expectation is on the women that, okay, because you're a woman, the house chores needs to go to you. Sometimes you do these things and you get exhausted. I think Mama Lily West mentioned it earlier on. That so it's striking the balance and having a forum like this where we can bring these conversations to light. It's the re-education that is important, and it all starts by, you know, getting together, masterclass, one-on-one, and to really start to peel back the layers. So, who do we have? Chinyelu Okoli. Do you have any contributions? Anything to add? A. Atkins. Any comment? Let me see if I have any comments here. Okay. Oh, I have some. Okay, Chinel is saying so many nuggets for food for thought. Thank you, thank you. Yes, Fatima is saying Tayo is 100% correct in his uniqueness and relationship dynamics. Yes, so that's true. Okay, anything else? Oh, Mama, you've got your hand up.
Okay, so my parting words for today would be for each one of us, married, single, divorced, whoever you are, take your pen and biro and paper, sit in a quiet room by yourself and reflect and ask yourself those very deep questions. Who am I really? Who am I? Because you need to know yourself. Your partner is not God. Your partner is not a spirit to know who you are. So when you're able to take away your title, take away your degrees, take away everything, who exactly are you? And then if you're doing it with your partner, very good. Both of you come bare and say, I've reflected again. Because remember, the life cycles we have lived, the things that happen to us also change us, also affect our values in life. So as we speak today, who are you? That will help the both of you to know who you are and what purpose you will pursue. But love yourselves, irrespective of what happens. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Coach Michael, let me come to you with your parting words and we'll close the room.
Everything is grounded on purpose. And purpose is the reason for your existence. Purpose is your why. And purpose is what bettered you. Purpose is why you got married. So if that is not clear to you, the purpose of your marriage will also be unclear. So before you begin to even look into marriage, so take a step back and look into your own purpose. What is your why? Because the whole purpose of your marriage is to fuel your why. I always tell people that, do you think having kids is one of the greatest privilege for man, for humanity. But I don't think the manufacturer needs us for kids. He can make kids out of stones if he wanted to. Marriage, I always say children are a secondary product of marriage. The primary product of marriage is the fulfillment of the purpose of the two people involved in it, starting with the man. So take that step back, write down what your why is. If you don't know what your why is, by all means, jump into that section with Coach Evelyn and you will discover it. And know what your own why is and know what your partner's why is. You should both exchange those notes. Have a purpose statement as a family. Let that be clear. Where are we going? Because that is what will determine the journey and the direction that you take. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Coach Michael. Yes, everything hinges on purpose. And, what I've found is sometimes when you get the relationship wrong, it almost like derails you from God's purpose for your life. Until you have that clarity, until, when the people that we care about, I was reading one, it's called like a survey, and it talks about they're interviewing people in their old ages, and one of the things that's resonated among all of them is the quality of the relationship that they've had. That's what added beauty to their lives. That's what helps them to, come into fullness, into alignment with the people that, that the purpose of God in their life. So your partner, your relationship plays a vital part in making sure that you are in alignment with your purpose, that you have that focus into your purpose. So we can't sit back and expect things to fix itself. We all have a part to play, and that part starts with us, with looking inward, with having that self-examination. So the door is open to reach out, and let's start that conversation. Let's start the journey back to self, the journey back to purpose. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Ibrahim Akande. Thank you for the comments. Appreciate it. I think that would be all from me. If there are any additional comments or questions, please, you have the next couple of minutes to get them out whilst we have this powerhouses of knowledge and inspiration still with us. And I want to especially thank Mr. Ade Owolabi for your wealth of knowledge, for sharing with us and for empowering us with your wisdom. It's very much appreciated. And for everybody, thank you for giving up your evening. I really do appreciate you. It's not going to be, I would say it's the beginning of, other conversations like this where we can have a discussion, healthy discussion between men and women, because it is very much needed. Thank you. Love you.